That, my friends, was a common Bengals W. Two of them. Kansas City Chiefs on pace to go 0-17 for the 2023 NFL season. I fully believe that it's going to happen. You saw them. They didn't have a chance tonight. Got ran off the field at full strength. They weren't missing a top defensive player, weren't missing one of the best offensive players in the league. They got beat fair and square. We got Brandon Bell right here saying, what a night. Burrow gets his money and KC gets beat. Who day? Antonio Marrero said Chiefs is washed. Hell, they're washed up and never coming back from this. AFC, super weak. Bengals going to just stroll to an AFC championship and a Super Bowl. I'm pretty happy right now, guys. Joe Burrow, now the highest paid player in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs lose on the first night of the NFL season. We are going into week 1 against a pervert quarterback who is going to get just dominated by a young secondary. I'm very excited. I'll talk that trash momentarily, but I mean, you guys are here for the Joe Burrow talk. I am so excited about this. And let me tell you some of the things I love about Joe Burrow. The guy who people said, you know what? He should pull an Eli and refuse to be drafted. Well, you know what? Eli not getting drafted effectively landed the Chargers, Phillip Rivers behind Drew Brees, and Sean Merriman. They did all right, okay? That was never going to happen here. Joe Burrow's a gamer. He's going to end up with at least a couple of Super Bowl rings, and he turned the franchise around. He turned the city around. Turned me into a season ticket holder. That's for damn sure. But let's talk about the timing. Brandon says, as soon as kickoff on Patrick Mahomes' first game of the season happened, just a little needling, little gamesmanship there. And you know this information, which was put out by Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Jordan Schultz, and the like, all the named names, was put out there at a time in which they wanted it out there because Joe Burrow and Mike Brown and the Bengals had kept this very, very quiet. They kept this incredibly quiet all along the way. And as a guy who breaks an awful lot of news and a lot of contract news in another line of work, I respect that. There is some gamesmanship there. You try to find it out, or maybe somebody wants to provide that information. They didn't. So when that info got out there, it got out there because they wanted to. But what I liked even more was along the way, and who knows how long this deal has been set, but along the way, Joe Burrow did not make any bones about it. He goes, man, I'm not really worried about it. This is where I want to be for the rest of my career. That makes me very happy I'm not a Cincinnati guy. The way that I put it is that I lived equally inconvenient from Lexington and Cincinnati, but if you wanted to go to a city, you went to Lexington or Cincinnati. They were both about an hour 20 from me. But as a guy who grew up with Cincinnati sports, Bengals, Reds, man, it makes me happy to see that. And the reality of the situation is a lot of players want to be in Cincinnati. Chad Ochocinco wanted to be in Cincinnati. Barry Larkin stayed in Cincinnati. Joey Votto stayed in Cincinnati. Andy Dalton wanted to stay in Cincinnati and did some incredible things for the city. Ken Griffey Jr. demanded to be traded to Cincinnati. This makes me very, very happy because the area, when it's hot and when sports are hot, oh man, it's phenomenal. It's a wonderful city, a wonderful area. And it makes me happy to see somebody like Joe Burrow that's like, I want to be here the rest of my career. And you've got Jamar Chase. He's going to get his deal as well. But that really put me at ease. And a lot of people were saying, like, and listen, I really respect Joy Taylor. I think she's one of the greatest voices in sports media. But being like, yeah, well, he shouldn't go out there and play week 1 without a contract. And I'm like, listen, friends, he is signed through the next 34 regular season games. He's signed through 2024 already. Just going to not play 2 years out? That's not what Joe Burrow is about. That's not what that guy does. Although I do respect that take and I understand. Easy for me to say, sitting here behind this desk, not with hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. But I think Joe Burrow knew that short of something Joe Theismannish or Alex Smithish, which Joy Taylor did address, I want to make that clear, and you can't predict, short of something like that, he was going to get that money. And even with that, he was probably going to get some money. Probably going to get some money. So the details of the contract are the NFL's richest deal. It is a 5-year, $275 million extension with $219 million of those dollars guaranteed. That is a lot. That is a lot. Now, that is added on top of his already robust 2-year deals here. So 2013, 2014. So he is signed through 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Hey, look at that. Me and Joe Burrow matching contracts right there. Or 2019, 2029. I wish it was still the 2010s, buddy. So signed through 2029. Joe Burrow and I matching contracts, both up in the year 2030. So if somebody else wants to give me a comparable amount of money, that would be great. I would really appreciate that. Love Fightful, but listen, I need 7 figures. That 6 ain't cutting it. I'm really, really happy that Joe Burrow is staying. This has completely transformed the city. And there were so many people, so many naysayers that were like, oh, the Bengals are cheap. The Bengals are cheap. The Bengals paid A.J. Green. The Bengals paid Andy Dalton. The Bengals paid Carson Palmer to be the highest paid quarterback at the time. They paid Boomer Esiason to be the highest paid quarterback at the time. They paid Chad Ochocinco. They had the back and forth with Carl Pickens and stuff, but they kept Carl Pickens. There have been some instances where they didn't. But then there have been a lot of instances where they did. And now Joe Burrow, the guy who, Lord willing, will be here for the next 10, 15 years. I hope he plays until he's like 40, like Aaron Rodgers. And we're talking about him at that level for, a decade plus to come as the savior for Cincinnati football. Has completely transformed the city. I was a part of that record attendance against the Dolphins last year. I believe it was the Thursday game, the whiteout game. Incredible environment to be in. 2 straight AFC championship games, a Super Bowl. And the Bengals are a couple of calls and maybe one lineman upright away from being Super Bowl champions back-to-back years. I sincerely think, and if you go back and watch last year's games, and I have, buddy, I think the Cincinnati Bengals could have very well have been 16-1 last year. A few calls made correctly, just a few little very minor adjustments. I think the Bengals were close to being 16-1. They were not winning that Browns game on Monday night. But speaking of, they're going to win that Browns game on Sunday. So let's talk a little bit about that before we sing Joe Burrow's praises and talk about the impact. Why are people in Cleveland implying that their pervert quarterback has ever shown any real hints of being good since 2020? That's the last time. The last time that he showed any hints of being good with people in the stadium, Deshaun Watson, was 2019. He didn't have to face the booze. He didn't have to face the struggle. And what does it say about the Cleveland Browns? I respect it and I don't respect it, that they are so desperate for a possibly decent quarterback that they were like, we got to go get this guy that nobody else wants, may never play again, and we got to guarantee him all of his money and completely screw up things for every other team. Deshaun Watson did not deserve that contract, but I'm sort of glad that if anybody gave it to him, it was the lowly Browns. I have no concerns. My only concern is Myles Garrett, because he's Myles Garrett. Joe Burrow has said as much as that in the past. He said, well, what gives me so much trouble with them? They got Myles Garrett. And that's the reality of the situation. I've got Nick Chubb on my fantasy team, both of them. So Don't want him to do very good this first game, though. I got no real concerns with the Browns. I think it's sort of dumb luck that they've had. Very, very dumb luck that they've had. So no real concerns about that. But the Kansas City Chiefs lost tonight. And I love this. By the way, Mike Fish says, rumor has it Watson, has a very low self-esteem because everyone's scared to massage his ego. Modern History Music says, Lions MVP, Kadarius Toney. You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. Antonio Marrero says, didn't get to say sup, Sean. I thought I was watching my Giants receiving core from last year with how bad those wide receivers are. Sincerely, Travis Kelce was really, really missed tonight. And listen, I'm fairly new to football, but I don't know exactly how many plays the Kansas City Chiefs have in their playbook that don't involve Travis Kelce in some significant manner with some significant role, because that's how good he is. They better develop some because he ain't getting any younger. But that hurts, and not having Jones hurts. And by the way, listen, in my other line of work, I got a lot of flack this week because I mentioned CM Punk and I had been in conversations about his side of things. Newsflash, media talks to wrestlers, athletes, managers, reps, execs, GMs. And Jones outright told the sideline reporter, this is how long it's been since I've talked to the Chiefs. This is how close we are getting to a deal. Right down to, this is how long I'll hold out. My God, guys, that's what I'm trying to be. Trying to be more of a sports reporter and have fun with it and be entertaining with it as much as I can than what we're used to. But enough of that boring wrestling stuff. Football on. Ah, man, Joe Burrow with the Bengals for 7 seasons. So this is categorically different than Joey Votto's contract, where we knew the ass end of it might look ugly. And it does. The last few years of Joey Votto's Cincinnati Reds contract haven't been great, but a lot of that is services rendered and him sticking around with a dog shit team, pardon my French, for as long as he has. Joe Burrow's contract, we don't know exactly how it is structured as of yet. We don't know how much of it is a signing bonus, how front-loaded it is. The average annual value over 7 years is $45 million. Now, we don't know the signing bonus, but over the next couple of years, that cap hit is nowhere near that. So if it's backloaded, boy, that's going to be a big money hit. But listen, fear not. He wants to be in Cincy his entire career. And I got some good news for you. The number really jumps up next year. That salary cap, is probably going to jump another 10 to 15 million next offseason. Then before the big contract hits, it's probably going to hit another 10 to 15 million. Now, again, I'm still learning the salary cap. That's something I really want to dig into this season. Learn the intricacies of the salary cap, how cap hits work and all that. But when you think about the deals that the Bengals have on the table, and you think about what's coming up and who's coming off. Lyle Collins is one by the time that contract is up, unless he just explodes and is this amazing lineman that pushes his way back in over Jonah Williams. That money's coming off the table. Oh, hey, by the way, how about 12 million plus for Jonah Williams coming off the table very, very soon? 12.6 after this season. He ain't coming back unless some just miraculous hugging out happens with the Bengals and Jonah Williams, who didn't want to be a right tackle. That money's coming off. Interestingly enough, Orlando Browns jumps about $6 million next year, and then in 2025 takes a dip, jumps back up in 2026. So something creative will happen there. But Lyle Collins will see $8.6 million come off the board. Jonah Williams, 12.6 after this season comes off the board. Ted Karras, we're going to see how things go there. Maybe they draft a replacement, but that's $7.4 million that we kind of look at. DJ Reader, we don't know what's going to happen with him. We don't know if he's going to get extended. If he doesn't get extended, that's $15.5 million right off the board. They better be drafting a replacement. That ain't it, though. You got Chidobe Awuzie. He's making about $8 million this year. They drafted very, very young for the future, and next year Mike Hilton's making about $7.5 million. Joe Mixon's deal, let's be real, he ain't going to be staying around in stripes after 2024. That's $8.5 million up. They're not going to sign a big ticket tight end. Like that is just a position that the Bengals are not going to spend on. And I think that's what running back is about to be. I think running back is going to be, who can we plug in at a discount that fits our scheme and that can do things similar to what Joe Mixon did? And that is a lot easier said than done, as we found out in the preseason. But they have already drafted ahead in the event that Tyler Boyd and his $10 million leaves. Now, I know a lot of people are looking at Higgins and they're saying, how can that possibly get done? Chase is getting done. They're re-signing Chase. They can franchise tag T. Higgins. If for some reason they aren't able to keep a hold of T. Higgins, they can trade him. They can keep Tyler Boyd around a little bit longer, and they can make use of that draft pick, because they're going to have to draft younger at O-line. That way they can get a little bit cheaper at O-line, because they spent a lot of money on their O-line. Jonah Williams, 12.6. Orlando Brown, 10 this year, 16, 15, then 22 million. Lyle Collins at 9.3 and 8.6. Alex Kappa at 8.7, 9.2, 10.2. Ted Karras, 5.6, 7.4. They spent a lot of money there. So they're going to have to develop, and they're going to have to get cheaper there. A lot of, sort of like what they did in the secondary. They're like, all right, we are going to spend our money on Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. And then the secondary, we're going to get younger and we're going to get cheaper. It would have been great to have Jesse Bates back. It would have been great to have Von Bell. They also, they kept Jermaine Pratt on, I think, a pretty decent deal. Logan Wilson hanging around as well. So to have those four anchors on the defense is really, really great. And they got Awuzie coming back on the secondary. They've got younger in the secondary, and if one of them can perform anywhere in the realm of a Jesse Bates, well, then they're winning there. They have set up their salary situation in a very, very smart way, where I think they can keep Higgins, Chase, and Burrow. They are not going to spend on running back. They are not going to spend on tight end. The tight end line of thinking is going to be, hello, tight end that believes he should be a starter. Would you like to make $1 or $2 million here this year and make about $6 or $7 million somewhere else next year? Because we're going to give you the opportunity to do that. Now, that's pretty well what happened this year. The past 2 years, honestly, CJ Uzama went elsewhere, made a bunch of money. Hurst went elsewhere, made a bunch of money. Irv Smith this year will probably have a 400 to 500 yard receiving year, score his 5 touchdowns, and he'll make his $5 to $7 million next year. The Bengals also, let me remind you, as wide receivers, they have Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd is probably leaving after this year. He's probably going to get paid pretty well somewhere. T. Higgins is the one where we're like, hope we can keep him. I think we're at about 75%. They have Trenton Irwin, who does not nearly get the respect that he should. Keep in mind, when Jamar Chase got hurt last year, Trenton Irwin showed up and acted like a number 1, number 2 receiver and had barely played in the NFL and was just catching TD passes all over the place. He had 4 touchdowns on 23 targets last year. Incredible. 4 touchdowns on 23 targets is phenomenal. I want to see definitely the splits on which games he got those. It was a period of 6 games that he got those 4 TDs. And he was just finding the end zone. And that's great because especially when Chase is out, you get focused on Boyd, Higgins. Antonio says, SRS, what's your record prediction for the Bengals this year? You think if Lamar stays healthy, the Ravens could be dangerous for y'all in the division? I got 12-5 for the Bengals, and I think Lamar Jackson and the healthy Ravens could be dangerous for us in the division because the Ravens were dangerous for the Bengals in the division even when Lamar Jackson wasn't healthy. I saw the Bengals have trouble with a second and third string quarterback, much less Lamar Jackson, who did every single thing that those two quarterbacks did. All the things that they did mediocre, he does at an elite level. So, yeah, I certainly think they can be dangerous. I am buying more into Zay Flowers than I am Odell Beckham Jr. I'm not buying into Odell Beckham Jr. yet. I've got to see something out of Odell Beckham Jr. besides him falling through the floor in the house party movie. I got to see him do something at a high level, at a $15 million level, I think it is. He is how old now? He's 30. Not bad, but he didn't play at all last year. He got hurt, obviously, at the end of 2021, but his 2021 numbers I looked at and I was like, oh, okay. His catch percentage was among the worst of his career. The only year that was worse was 2020. So his 2020 numbers didn't look great either. He had like 3 touchdowns. He played in seven games. But the next year he doubled that, only managed like 500 so yards, 5 TDs. I haven't seen that. Okay, I haven't seen that truly elite level out of him since 2018. But since he went to the Browns, it's like, okay, you're with the Browns, so maybe it's a little bit harder for them to get to the football to you than it was before with Eli Manning. Or I can't remember who the hell was throwing him the ball his last year in New York. I think it was Eli. But what I have seen is him have just an incredibly elite first 5-ish years. He goes to the Browns, and I'm like, okay, your production's going to fall off a little bit. But then 2020 and 2021, I looked at it and I was like, And he's out week 1 too? Seriously? Man. Antonio says, my first season as a football fan was Beckham's first season in the league, so I'll always have fun memories of him with my Giants. Well, that was such an explosive year for him. And not only that, he had that incredible season, and he had an even better season the next year. Maybe, because he missed a few games that first year too. And that's another thing. You got to worry about him getting on the field because he's all the time missing games. I don't know. It was good of them to get him if they could and they could make it work. But I think Zay Flowers is really going to stand out. And Zay Flowers is also going to benefit from all of this as well. What else do we have on the docket? Obviously, the Burrow extension is phenomenal. I am so excited about that. I think based on my my drive-through expertise here, the Bengals can make it work. Like I said, the NFL is only getting more popular. So that salary cap, I expect by the time Joe Burrow's big money hits in 2025, I think, okay, so let me see what he's allocated right now. He's allocated $11 million. So If his AAV is, gosh, 50 million more. Again, we don't know. We'll base it on the AAV. If they got to find 35, $40 million, well, 25 of that is probably going to be made up by just the increase in salary cap. But just doing the math in my head, again, 8.5 off Mixon, 10 off Burrow. All right, there we go. That's 10.5 off Boyd, rather. That's about 19. Trenton Irwin probably ain't hanging around. That's another $1 million. We'll go up to 20. They're not going to carry $3 million tight ends. That'd be about 21. Jonah comes off. So 33.5. Lyle Collins comes off. We're talking 42 million at that point. Awuzie is probably coming off. It's 50 plus million. $50 plus $1 million of just high-end salary that hopefully this year, next year in the draft can be replicated. And it's going to become a more attractive free agent destination for receivers, especially veteran receivers. Veteran tight ends, I think, will probably become a good place for the Bengals as well. Finns look like a dark horse team as long as Tua stays healthy for real. Yeah, man, I was unfortunately a witness to that scary Tua moment. Man, it was horrifying to be on that river for like 3 or 4 months, man, because the Tua concussion, the Hangman Page concussion, and the DeMar Hamlin situation happened within 2 or 3 blocks over the course of 3 months. Phillips says Bengals and Reds going to be must-watch TV for the rest of the decade, especially considering the new baseball pitch clock and games going a lot quicker. I love the Reds team right now. They need to develop some pitching, but I'm really loving the Reds. Comparing to, say, Justin Herbert, his big cap probably doesn't hit until around 2027. Yeah, so I think the Bengals probably have to get a little bit more creative with how they're going to do some of this. I mean, for example, they reworked Mixon's deal, and they didn't make a big splash or a big signing as a result of that. So I'd go ahead and plop some of that down this year. Apply some of that to this year's deal. I'm going to look at Justin Herbert's deal. Woo! A $71 million cap hit in 2028. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, I don't. $71 million. That is psychotic. Oh, God. Somebody says SRS getting wrestling scoops text to him. I was. He replies, new phone, talking Bengal. Who day? Sincerely, guys, like, I don't know if you've seen my social media conduct, but it is a lot happier during football season. Football has completely changed my life for the better. I love wrestling. I really do. I love training wrestling, learning about wrestling, being in the ring, reporting wrestling, doing podcasts and all that. But a lot of the toxicity associated with it really, really does drain me. But wrestling brought my family out of poverty. So I'll always love wrestling and always be a part of that. But also, I worked every day for between 2014 and 2019. I didn't take a single day off except for my wedding and my bachelor party. And now I force days off. But when I watch football, like, I love to watch football, and it gives me something a little bit more fun to talk about. Tone Stamp says, Chiefs lost, Burrow extension, huge Bengals W today. It was a huge Bengals W today. Hell yeah. Over the Cap is a good resource. I'll start to use that. I really want to learn a lot about that. I used to be like very, very good with NBA salary cap stuff, but I fell out of the NBA quite a bit. Used to be very good with Major League Baseball salary stuff, but there's no cap with that. So there's really, it's not as fun to kind of dive into as it is the NFL cap. and the NBA cap. And I don't know anything about hockey. Jimmy Van's probably watching this like, wish you were that good with the Fightful salary cap. Joseph Boza says, all jokes aside, Travis Kelce would have been a headache for the Lions. Surprised it was 21-10. Yeah, Travis Kelce is absolutely more than a 1-point difference. So I think they would have won that game if he was there. Joseph Boza says, had a feeling when Sean found out about this fat contract for Joe Burrow, he would want more money from Fightful. Ha. So I'll speak frankly with you guys here. I get paid very, very well by Fightful, especially considering where I live. The reality is I could make more than twice as much if I just said, you know what? I just want to do me and not do Fightful. And I just want to do a YouTube, Streamlabs, and a Patreon. But I don't find anything fun in that. I want us to provide jobs for the 40 plus people that we provide jobs for and help people that were in the position that I was when I was coming up, because also it's good to have a community. It's good to have people that care about you. It's good to have people to fall back on. And it's just good to have a team. It's good to have a team. And we have a really, really good team. And I'll continue to do fine. I'm well taken care of. And I'm very, very happy. Antonio says they franchised Saquon and paid DJ. Mike says, could you imagine football fans arguing over ratings and attendances like Twitter and wrestling fans? Ooh, boy. I'll tell you something. Oh, my God. I log onto my Common Bengals W Twitter, and I have not blocked all of the wrestling idiots that I have blocked on my other account. And I see some of the most dumbass takes ever. Some of the just dumbest stuff that I have ever seen. Oh, man. Would the Bengals trade Higgins? I think it would require a first or multiple seconds, or a second and a third. They got him in the second round, and he is absolutely a number one receiver. He is a number one receiver. I'll be honest with you guys, and I know a lot of people are like, yeah, sure, buddy. If it were just Tyler Boyd is a number one receiver as well. Tyler Boyd would be a number one receiver on many teams. I'm not going to say more than half or even 20, but there are probably, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams that he could be a number one receiver on, especially if he was getting all those reps. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I was so excited to talk about this. Tone says, if they don't re-sign Higgins, I expect at worst a tag and trade. Me too, buddy. Me too. I am so excited. Football's back, baby. Until next time, we're out.